South Africa continues to grapple with an unemployment crisis. The latest statistics released for the fourth quarter of 2022 show that unemployment is at 32.7%. NGOs believe that education and skills training is the only solution to the crisis. But in a post-pandemic economy, donor funding has waned. For more on this, let's speak to the CEO of K. Mason Foundation, Lauren Bright. A very good evening to you, Lauren. Thank you so much for your time tonight. When we talk about a drop in funding for this sort of training, how much has it gone down?
Hi, Timikile. Firstly, thank you so much for having me this evening to discuss this very crucial matter. I think, it's gone down quite substantially. I think if you look at, what kind of donor fatigue is, there's several reasons, why this has happened. But I think, we look at factors like political instability, alternative priorities. There's so many initiatives that need investment, like healthcare, environmental protection, making less available for education initiatives. And then also the fear of lack of innovation, perception that education initiatives in South Africa, perhaps lack innovation and are not addressing the root causes of educational disparities. So there's various factors, but it has gone down quite substantially. And we are plagued with so many challenges, with the war and the post-pandemic, as you mentioned. So there's a lot of factors at play here.
Is it donor fatigue, and you say there are a lot of factors, is it more so fatigue or just companies and individuals having to reprioritize their spending in a post-pandemic world where so many people had to make cuts? We're talking about rising interest rates. Inflation has also been a nightmare.
Yes. Absolutely. Donor fatigue is really the term that we use to describe the declining interest or willingness of individuals or corporates to donate money or resources to charitable causes. So, as I mentioned, there's economic challenges. There's scandals and mismanagement of funds, in various, high-profile cases of corruption and mismanagement of funds in some non-profit sector places. So there is that damaged public trust and confidence in charitable organizations. And then obviously political instability and, of course, the donor fatigue cycle, which, it can be a self-perpetuating cycle because where there's a decrease in funding, it leads to an increase in demand for services, which in turn leads to a decrease in donor confidence and willingness to give.
And where are you seeing the highest or the worst, shall we say, cuts at the moment?
I think it's quite hard to say. Look, obviously, me being with the K. Mason Foundation, we are a senior scholarship organization. So we look at the education sector, but I do know that all sectors and all charity sectors have been affected by specifically the pandemic and, of course, rising inflation and economic instability. So it is difficult. We don't have those stats, but I know that education definitely has been affected largely.
Where then does this donor fatigue leave organizations that work in the education and training space? Are they able to come up with other sources of funding, or do they also just basically have to scale down their operations in the interim?
I think they really have to be quite innovative and creative in terms of finding solutions. So, you have to, during the pandemic, everyone had to pivot and look at online events, look at online donor appreciation events. What we do in our specific organization is we link donors up specifically with their scholars and do online calls and online check-ins so that they can develop those those connections virtually. I think also really broadening yourself to a global funding. I think that's really one of the solutions going forward. We're very lucky that we have a trust in the UK and the US, so we're able to tap into those donors. But I think it's really about, Timikile, offering the donor a really positive solution. So making it a really personal contact with the donor so that they know exactly where their funds are going. They know that their funds are being directly forwarded toward the beneficiary, and developing that trust and that relationship with the donor. And that is how you cement those relationships and you keep and sustain your donors. You build that trust, you build that integrity with them, and you show them very clearly through your M&E practices, through your audited financials, through your annual reports, through your governance documents. You show the donor just how credible you are. There's a really is for a donor. The biggest thing is there's a joy in giving. And that's what we need to focus on here in South Africa is when you giving is better than actually receiving. So when you know that you can impact the trajectory of somebody else's future and create a future leader, there's a substantial joy that comes in that process. And we really tap into that. We call ourselves a joy engine.
Right. And where are you seeing the largest portion of funding at this moment coming from? Is it more domestic or international? You referenced the United States and the UK a short time ago.
Yes, so we actually have quite a substantial funding amount coming in from the UK. But however, we tap into corporate partnerships here in South Africa, which have proved very effective. And there you have to look at aspects like employee engagement. So how do you take the team at your corporate and show them that they're not only working for the bottom line, show them your corporate social investment initiatives and let them be part of volunteering for the NPO that corporate supports. Bring them in and, really integrate your corporate team into the CSI initiatives, and that really builds credibility and it really retains employees. So we do a lot of that. We get our donors really involved. We build those corporate partnerships. It's all about often the corporate partnerships, we give them social media exposure and we showcase the really fantastic work that they're doing for our organization in building future leaders.
What would be the national implications if the situation does not improve and improve quickly?
Gosh, that is very difficult to say. I mean, the severe consequences would obviously be, economic instability, high unemployment rates, just getting bigger and bigger, and really impacting on the future standing of South Africa in a global perspective. If we look at the stats, Tembekile, we'll see that from the quarterly labor force fourth quarter 2022 report, that basically of the over 10 million young people between the ages of 15 and 24 in South Africa, only 2.5 million of that amount were in the labor force. So the biggest percentage, which is over 75% of this group, are those that are inactive in the workspace. And that trajectory is only going to get bigger and bigger year on year. So I think that's what we have to bear in mind, that if action is not taken now, that the consequences will be dire. And I think that is why we're saying to corporates, investing in education is the simple solution to improving these figures. It's the foundation for economic growth and social development. And of course, the most effective tool for breaking the cycle of poverty and unemployment.
Lauren Bright, thank you so much, CEO with the K. Mason Foundation. Thank you very much for your time tonight.